Hello, everybody. We'd just like to thank you again, and we'd like to welcome you for this presentation. We will be presenting on a paper that is titled Effects of Virtual Reality on Student Learning in Materials and Methods course. The authors for this paper are Dr. Jason Lucas and myself, Dhaval, who will be doing a presentation for this paper. So introduction, just introducing a little bit to virtual reality. I think everyone has seen and used virtual reality at some point with this newly technological world that we live in. But basically, the actual definition of virtual reality is that it is a computer simulated environment that allows for interactions among the users basically in a virtual world. It has been proven through previous research that if you properly develop some of the VR systems, that it can actually provide students with an active learning environment. And that active nature of VR also allows for learning that is more efficient. It improves the overall recall of the information and really provides a good experiential learning tool to transfer some of the perceived knowledge into practice. The 3D environments, which is a critical aspect of VR, has also increased learners' engagement and motivation in some of the tasks. While it also offers, as we know, more enjoyable experience than traditional methods. So VR has all these amazing benefits specifically to learning, and hence we want to really dig down deeper in how we can use VR for one of the courses within construction management, which is Materials and Methods course. So a couple of other things where VR has been used in the construction industry. It has been used in problem solving and critical thinking. Risk management is the other aspect that has been used heavily, especially in regards to safety, where for training purposes and to really give users an interactive feedback when it comes to safety. So the goal of this study is to explore the actual learning of the student when utilizing the simulation model developed using VR versus the traditional methods of education. So with that goal, this was a methodology for the study. The first step was to develop the study objectives, basically why we are doing the study and what do we really want to investigate. Based on the objectives, a tool was developed. Two groups were developed, basically a control group and a simulation group, and they were given an assessment in the actual course, and the assessments were graded, and then the comparative analysis was performed between the control group and the simulation group. So going with the first step, study objective. So really the main goal of the study was to compare the actual learning of the students when you're really teaching them in a traditional classroom model, so using a PowerPoint and a chalkboard versus using and introducing a similar concept and teaching them a similar concept using VR simulation model. One thing to note is that this was conducted over 2 semesters. So really the first semester students served as a control group. Now when we define a control group in this study, that means that they were used or they were actually educated using a traditional classroom model. And then the next group, which was a second semester, was a simulation group where we used the actual virtual reality to enhance their learning. The assessment tool, so based on the exercise, 3 aspects of assessment were developed, and really we wanted to test 3 key aspects of learning, which is a high level of understanding where they have to recall the information, and in this case we used a wood frame structure on all the steps that it takes to basically build a building, build with wood studs. So the first one is the open response, where they had to go and recall the information by actually writing in the steps in order for completing a wood frame structure. The next one was a sequence order. So they were given a predetermined 23 steps, and they had to go and sequence that in correct order. And this one really gave what we call as a lower level of understanding, where they were to understand if they can recall some of the if they can recall some of the information. The third one was a true and false, which is really to test the students' overall comprehension, and this is really to understand if they were able to comprehend some of the concepts that were discussed. And there were about 26 true and false questions, and a detailed for the simulation group, a detailed what we call as a VR model was given, where they had to use a mouse and a cursor to navigate through the model and complete some of the key steps. So the participants for the study were obviously the students from the course for 2 consecutive semesters. The first control group had a total of 38 students, and the second group had 39 students. And as you can see, we got a pretty decent response rate for the 3 assessments, which was 94.7% and 97.4% respectively. So the assessments, so after they had after a concept was introduced and they were taught on the concept of wood framing within the course, they were given this assessment, and the assessment was graded. The first one really had to be coded because this was an open-ended question where they have to type in some of the steps in bullet points. So all the responses were coded and were given appropriate credit according to its accuracy. The next the grading point was a sequential step, and this was pretty easy to grade because these were predetermined steps. So every step that they got incorrect, a point was taken off. And then true and false were straightforward, which were graded as right or wrong answers. So these are some of the results. As you can see here, we had a total number of 36 students, and this is a control group results. For open responses for 36 students, the total possible cumulative points for that entire class was 432. And out of 432, about 254 points were correct, with a percent correct of 58.8%. For the sequence order, the total number of possible points for a whole class was 807, and then they and as a cumulative total point, they got 474 correct for a percent of 58.8, and then true and false, they received a 60.9% correct rate. Now, when you look at the simulation model, a similar exercise was given, a similar assessment was given to a group of students in the simulated class, and these are the results. And as you can see, for the open response, it was about the overall class had about 55.4% correct. For sequence order, we had 74.6, and then for true and false, we had 59.3. So we really wanted to compare between a control group and the simulation group to understand what was a percent difference in learning in some of these assessments. Again, as a reminder, control group was a group where no simulation was used, and the simulation group is where we had used a VR and then given them the assessment. So as you can see, the percent difference, the key difference that we found out, which was more than 10%, was in sequence order. So we really wanted to plot the graph and understand, visually the difference between the control group and the simulation group. So what we did was we ranked the assessments from low grade to highest grade, and as you can see, there's a consistent difference in what we call as the output of the assessment between the control group, which is down here, and the simulation group, which is up here. So in order to test the significance, we ran some t-tests between the control group and simulation group. And as expected from the table right here and from this chart, the open response and true-false were statistically insignificant, basically a p-value of 0.24 and 0.28 respectively. However, when we looked at the sequence order of information, the results were statistically significant with a p-value of, as you can see, 0.0000051. So again, this all conveyed that open response and true-false didn't really have any effect on learning for materials and methods course, but when it came to sequential order, we saw some impact in learning. Then we had also given a couple of perception questions to really understand what do students think about virtual reality. And from what we found out is they were really favoring virtual reality. I mean, these two numbers, say that 96.6% either strongly agree or agree that using VR increased their interest in the subject. And about 93.6% agree or strongly agree that using VR enhanced the learning of the presented material. So not only did the sequential order of assessment show the improvement in students' learning, but it also, the perception of the students was that they actually like VR. They want to learn using the VR environment, and it increased their interest in the subject, which is a huge benefit to us teachers within construction management programs. So in conclusion, we were able to conclude that recall and comprehension, which is basically our assessment 1 of open-ended question, where you have to recall and list the steps in order, and comprehension, which is true or false, did not show any significant difference. However, the recognition of information, meaning when we gave them predetermined steps that they had to rank in order, that did show a significant difference in learning. The other conclusion that we were able to see from this study is that students did express an agreement that the simulation helped them to become more interested in the content, which compared to some of the traditional means.